All right, everybody, that's the music telling us it's time to start the show. We are called the Business to Business Network Show. I've been doing the show since 1999. It's an hour-long show. We talk business, politics, and economics. This particular show, we're going to be talking a lot about politics. Business and politics and economics all tie together because these individuals that we hire through voting and elect make important economic decisions on how we run the city, how we run the county, the state, and the country. And our guest that we're going to be talking with is Tom. Tom, are you there? Give us your last name. Introduce yourself, please.
My name's Joseph.
And kind of background. Give us, introduce yourself.
I have a very background. I live in Pittsburgh. I have an engineering degree. I started my career in factory automation. I started a company called Bookminders. We were a pioneer in remote first working for women who want to do accounting. And a handful of years ago, I started thinking about election reform and how to compete in gerrymandered districts and, talking about that business aspect of it. I'm bringing more of a business approach to election reform than probably has typically or ever been done.
Yes. And now you got a little bit of history there in as part of your program. Give us a little bit of the history on the Mr. Wilson.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of people don't know about James Wilson. He was a founding father. He, I think, one of only 6 people signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but he was an author, and he and James Madison were really the nerds as far as the Constitution was concerned. If you go back and read Madison's notes, he really talks about how much Wilson spoke. And, coming into the Constitutional Convention, there was a Virginia plan, and there was really the Wilson plan. And over the course of the summer, the Constitution really became what Wilson wanted, his envisioning of the separation of powers and that the president would be voted by the people. In fact, it was one of the very first things that started the discussion of the Constitutional Convention was how they would elect a president. And he thought by popular vote, even though it would have been so impractical at the time, but he thought that that's the way it should ultimately be done, and that's how we ultimately won it.
And he made sure there was certain verbiage or wording in the state constitution. Tell us the words that are so important there.
Well, there's a few things that Wilson attributed to. One is the term "we the people," but after he drafted the U.S. Constitution and played a major hand in writing the U.S. Constitution, 3 years later, the Pennsylvania Constitution was rewritten. Wilson was from Pennsylvania. He was a representative. At that time, he was one of the first Supreme Court justices, and he played a major hand in writing the Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution. He added the words "and equal" to what at that time had just been the free election clause. Back in 1689, the English Bill of Rights was the first time that elections were declared to be free, meaning that everybody should be able to run. The term that Wilson added to it, "and equal," meant they needed to be fair. And Wilson talked about democracy or free elections and fair elections as being the fountain of democracy. And if we did not make sure that that fountain was pristine, that poison would spread to all aspects of the government. And, I think what he said was really prophetic that, if you look at how partisanship has creeped its way into everything, that was really the poison that I think Wilson feared.
And his story is on your website. Give out the website if people want to get more information, because I love history, but I've never heard about Mr. Wilson like this before.
I know. No, my joke is that Wilson does not have a statue to take down.
Yeah, exactly. But how do people? Yeah, what's the website?
There's 2 websites. There's one. This journey of mine is really taking me in 2 directions. One is that I've looked at how do we use the current system in a different way to basically achieve what we want to achieve through election reform. And that information is on a website called wilsonsfountain.us. That's Wilson, WILSONS, Wilson Fountain, like the spring, FOUNTAN.us. And that really gets into there's a page on History Wilson and basically how we can use a super PAC and a national party and local committees to use the election system that currently exists to create a free and equal nominating contest. And then on the website, mainstreetparty.org, that's America's Main Street Party, where we're developing and publishing the free and equal contest. But the idea is that we're basically using a party as a technological organization, not an ideological organization, and using it to create an app and a portal where people can run for Congress for free. And the loophole that we're kind of taking advantage of is that as long as people don't spend money on a campaign, a party can basically do whatever it wants to nominate its representatives. So we're just going to basically create a private contest within U.S. House districts and create a new way to choose representatives where the citizens actually pick the candidates, not party leaders or donors.
Okay, let's walk through a scenario on this. So Mr. Jones or Miss Thompson decide that they want to run for District 3, Arizona, and step by step, what would they do to get on the platform and to qualify? Walk us through it.
Well, and this is where we're taking like a really backward approach. You know, a typical party would go out and search for people with money and influence to run that they think could win.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that. We're basically, our strategy is to find districts where we think a good nominee can win. Where there's distortion because, you know, money and gerrymandering has screwed up representation. We're looking for 20 red, 20 blue, probably what would typically be seen as uncompetitive districts where we're going to run this contest. And now this is, again, we're at a very early stage of this. This is what I would say we're at the end of proof of concepts. There's some things that need to be done, but our plan is to team with the super PAC that would actually go into this district in advance and market to your hypothetical Mr. Jones and forget who the other person was.
Miss Thomas. You know, we want to make sure we have male, female, and very open. So either one. Now they would be approached by the super PAC.
But I'm sorry. The idea is that the super PAC's going to market and educate the district on what's about to happen. And there's going to be two types of engagements that can happen. People say, hey, I'm going to run for Congress. I'm going to learn about how to use the portal to create my campaign. So everybody that runs for Congress would have the same campaign, same number of pixels, same number of minutes of video, same number of characters text to explain their positions, their views. And the constituents as well would be logging on to become familiar with the app. We would plan to run like a mock election using avatar candidates, you know, in advance of the contest so that constituents can download the app, become familiar with it, get through the identity portion. We want people to understand how the thing works, you know, before we actually run it.
Right. But
it would be available only in limited districts. I mean, we don't want to create chaos and do this everywhere. We're looking at, you know, very specific districts and districts where typically the opposition party doesn't have a chance, where they're in a typical general election, if a run for House, that either the losing Democrat or losing Republican is probably getting a less than a third of the votes, may not even offer a candidate. I mean, that's the way gerrymander works. I mean, if you've gerrymandered a district correctly, the other side has no shot, but you're bearing a lot of their votes.
Yeah. Now, let's walk through the mechanics. So Mr. Jones says, I am interested in this. He has to go out and get 100 supporters. Explain that portion of it, please.
Yeah, I mean, it is a free and equal contest that I guess technically anybody. There'll be some screening by the nominating committee. So like applying for a job, you know, we would do background checks and, you know, make sure that any information that's required to run for Congress that they submit in advance. In addition, and this is to get traction for the contest, anybody that enters would need to get, at this point we're proposing 100 endorsements from fellow citizens. This would mean that, you know, if we're getting 50 to 100 contestants, you know, they're getting 5,000 to 10,000 downloads of people in the district in advance of the contest who would register and endorse these candidates so that they could qualify to be in the contest.
Yes.
And then once the contest starts, there's going to be like a period where they want to make the top 20, kind of like American Idol. And they're going to be out there promoting them. They can promote themselves on social media. They can't spend money. There can be no physical evidence of the campaign, but the app and the portal will have tools, and the Super PAC would also be marketing to the public to say, hey, download the app, check this out. There are tools on the app that show, which candidates are trending. A really cool thing that I've been using college students to help design this, and they came up with this idea of what we're calling an issue indicator. But the idea is that there'd be 2 global, 3 national, 2 local issues, which would be determined by the local committee, that the candidates and the candidates would need to weigh in on, certain positions, and they can elaborate on those positions. But it would make it easy for the constituents to match up, because all they have to do is weigh in on those same 7 issues. And if the field is, 50 to 100 candidates, that's a lot to pick through. But it will come back. The system will come back. We have demos of this. It will come back and show which ones where you have a perfect alignment. So if at the very beginning stages of this contest as a lazy constituent, you just want to endorse all the ones where you perfectly match on positions, you could do that and then see who makes it through to the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our demo, we're showing that, if you have this large field, that, you might let it ride for a couple times. And then once you get down to a top 10, you might, take a deeper dive.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that we're going to have, this way of using what's called approval voting, where you can basically vote and approve as many people in the early rounds as match your views. And then when you get into the top 4, we'll use like a ranked choice voting system. But we want to have a final round where there's a debate in the top 2, and that there's always somebody who wins the nomination that has more than 50% of the vote.
You got it. And
But
there's
our
a
thought
prize.
is that,
And there's a prize for
ahead.
winning that. Now, we got a break coming up here. I want to get your website. How can people reach you, Tom?
The party website is mainstreetparty.org.
MainStreetParty.org.
Like Main Street Party. Yeah.
And you can find Tom on there. Tom, we got to do a quick break here. Stay with us. We're going to come back and get into a deeper dive on this. Everybody, this is called the Business to Business Network Show. We're going to do a break. Please stay tuned. We're going to be right back. I know I'm sorry. You're doing a good job.
Cool.
Tom, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're going to come back, and I want to go into this American Idol concept because it looks